Now it's over to Fran in Israel.
Good evening from Jerusalem on day 5 of the ceasefire in Gaza. Tonight, more Israelis were freed from there and more Palestinians were freed from Israeli jails. But tensions do remain high in this region. We've come to Jerusalem to speak to Isaac Herzog. His father was born in Ireland and lived in Portobello in Dublin. His grandfather was the first chief rabbi of Ireland. He is the president of a country that is still traumatised after the October 7th Hamas attacks. I've been speaking to him about the increasingly strained relationship between Ireland and Israel and also about the war in Gaza. But I began by asking him, how important was the release of hostages to people here in Israel?
It means the world to us. By the way, I guess it means the world to so many people around the world. And when you meet and see these children, these old age, these mothers coming back home, your heart overflows. We know that there are prices to this, but we are with full conscience doing this and bringing our citizens back home. Today I met one hostage who came to see me. She's a professor. She deals with the ecology, with the environment for years, doing good all over the world. And her house I visited yesterday with a president of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, in Kibbutz Be'eri. It's totally burned, totally shattered, and the scenes are horrific. And she didn't even yet have the chance to bereave her husband. She thought that he's alive. When she got out, she discovered he's dead. And the family members are still there in Gaza.
Like, that suffering that we are seeing unfold at the moment, the plan of the Israeli government is, once the ceasefire is over, is to go back and continue with its offensive in Gaza. Some people might say it's just repeating history and it is only going to result in more people being killed and not fix the problem at all. What do you say to that?
The opposite. The reason is that we've tried all other options. We tried a peace agreement with the Palestinians, and they violated it with endless terror, suicide terror and endless terror. Then we tried full withdrawal from Gaza unilaterally, and it was taken over in a coup d'etat from the Palestinian Authority by Hamas and turned into a platform of missiles and terror endlessly. We've repeated operations and stopped on a ceasefire, listening to all our friends and world community, and it repeated itself. It's like it went up again. And then we faced the most horrific atrocities since World War II. And now we have no choice but to get these guys out and give a future,
just Gaza, Mr.
enable
President.
a future to the Palestinian people without gunpoint into their heads.
Sure, but the point is, Hamas, if you flatten Gaza, right from north to south, that will not eliminate Hamas. It is not Gaza. They are elsewhere. They will resurface.
But the fact of the matter is that their military capability is all based in Gaza. A huge, huge amount of terror, which has been above and underground. The terror city underground, worth billions and billions of dollars, including Irish taxpayers' money. Not that I'm saying that the Irish government paid Hamas. I'm saying that money was sent and donated to help rebuild Gaza and improve it, and then money was laundered by the locals or hijacked and abducted through various sources from the subcontractors on the ground and used to build a city of terror underneath.
And to wipe that out, to deal with that, you possibly are going to kill tens of thousands of Palestinians. Is that a price Israel is willing to pay?
God forbid. We don't intend to do it. We don't want to do it.
But you are doing it.
We are operating according to international humanitarian law. These villains who came to...
Some would dispute that, Mr. President.
But I dispute what you're disputing. Because I'm saying these villains who came in order to erase Israel off the face of the map and kill all Jews and thereafter all Christians, by the way, because it's a culture of extreme fundamentalist jihadist Islam. The only way you can get them out is by eliminating their military capability.
The price could be you eliminate tens of thousands of Palestinians.
God forbid. We are working according to international law by alerting, by sending millions of leaflets, text messages, phone calls, and moving people to a safe zone so that we can go in, get this infrastructure of terror out, and then bring them back in and start building. It happened in history that sometimes at the end you have to fight in order to get the mob out.
What do you say to a point made by the Jordanian foreign minister yesterday, where he said that what is happening in Gaza is within the legal realm of genocide?
So the foreign minister of Jordan has been attacking us endlessly, but he knows all too well, and for many years, that if Hamas had the opportunity, they will take him and all of his colleagues, throw them to jail in the good alternative.
The point about genocide.
But most probably will kill him and get rid of him, because we are not absolutely what we have seen, what we've gone through, what Israel has gone through is real genocide. This is real perpetrated genocide. What we are doing is we're alerting people. Many of the Palestinian casualties, unfortunately, and it tears my heart, were killed by Hamas fire. And you guys are not really always facing the truth. It's very difficult to admit, but one has to know the truth. These missiles fell from Gaza on Gazans, and people know it.
The point about genocide is that if you are carpet bombing or extensively bombing an area, you know you're deliberately going to kill people.
But under your right of self-defense, you alert people in advance,
if I could ask the
according to rules, and using humanitarian corridors for that.
Could you let me ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. If you are indiscriminately bombing, or you are carpet bombing an area, and in that area, and in Gaza we know people are located within a border, if you are killing people who are of a particular nationality or of a particular ethnicity, that is the very legal definition of genocide.
Absolutely not, because we are not carpet bombing, and we are not bombing indiscriminately, and we are alerting and giving ample time, hours and hours before, and we're employing humanitarian corridors, and we are covered by legal advice all throughout, and we know what we are targeting, and we're calling people, texting them, and asking them, and giving them millions of leaflets with directions where to go in order not to be hurt.
So what do you say to people who say this is genocide?
You cannot recognize my right for self-defense and tell me don't do anything. This is absolute blatant lie, and it is exactly the problem with this kind of approach. There's no way Israelis can defend themselves after they were burnt, chopped, raped, abducted, and tortured, that they have the right to defend themselves from the same places where terror is coming from. In these homes, we found Nazi propaganda, ISIS propaganda, enormous amount of hate, bombs and missiles. Does any Irish citizen have a missile in his living room? A missile that can be launched for 200 kilometers? So I go into that living room, I take out the missile, I uproot and break all the equipment. That's what I'm doing, and that is the right of self-defense under international law.
I want to bring up the point about Leo Varadkar's tweet. You have been vocal about it, your Foreign Affairs Minister has. Some people might say, in Ireland in particular, that the Israeli reaction has been a gross overreaction to what were a few simple words in addition to a very long statement. What do you say to that?
And in the long statement and all other statements, the word Israel was hardly mentioned, if at all. The word Hamas was hardly mentioned in at all. What's the problem as in a member of the European Union, a nation that I truly respect? My family's history is intertwined with Irish history. My family lineage and connections to Ireland are historic. I'm very proud of that, and I keep on saying it all over the world. When President Biden came in here and when he hosted me, we started by saying it's a great day for the Irish people, humorously but also seriously. And yet, how could it be that the Irish government cannot say, Emily, little Emily, she returned from being a hostage by Hamas, abducted from her home in Be'eri, in Kibbutz Be'eri. What's wrong with that? What's the problem in just admitting the truth and saying we are really sorry for the tragedy Israel has seen and that has befallen the people of Israel, and Emily herself?
Your Foreign Affairs Minister accused the Taoiseach of Ireland of legitimising and normalising terror and telling him he needed to check his moral compass. Did Eli Cohen overstep the mark there?
So I'm not commenting about our foreign minister, but one has to understand the feeling that we're feeling from out here. We're looking at the picture and looking at Ireland, which is a very respected country and a great nation, and asking ourselves, what did we do wrong throughout history that Ireland is so indifferent
Do you
to the
believe they
pain
are?
and
Do you really
endured
believe
by
Ireland is?
Israelis. How can it not be that somebody says in the statement? Well, I read all official statements of the Irish
believe
government.
that Leo Varadkar has lost his moral compass?
No, I didn't say that.
No,
and
but
I
Eli
don't-
Cohn did, and I'm asking you, do you
I said
believe
in
it?
my interview on CNN, I have respect for Leo Varadkar, and I definitely have respect for Foreign Minister Martin, whom I met recently. And we know, and they've expressed the pain that Israel has endured, but they don't say it outright publicly to the people of Ireland. What's wrong with saying, dear Emily, 8 years old, you were hijacked and abducted by a vile terrorist organization who put a gunpoint to your head and took you away and tortured you, and she's under shock. And you should see what her father just said in interviews, how
we've seen the pictures of her, and
traumatized she is.
you can see,
how traumatized
you
they
can
are.
clearly see.
So why cannot
Yeah.
it be said? What's wrong with that?
Do you-
You can say we argue with Israel on its policies. You can say we argue with Israel on settlement and borders. Fine, legitimate. We are a democracy. Believe it, it's said here in Parliament. But what's the problem? Why is it somebody drafting and not mentioning the word Israel? What's wrong with mentioning the word Israel? And I invite Prime Minister Varadkar to visit Israel. For the first time, we would finally meet him in Israel. I'm eagerly looking for that, the same way that I'm eager to visit Ireland again, as always.
Given everything you've said, do you consider Ireland to be a friend of Israel?
I consider Ireland to be a very, very important nation and country. And in many ways, we have strong friendship with the many people in Ireland who love Israel and adore Israel, and it's mutual. But unfortunately, there are incidents where the political echelon is simply afraid to say the truth. And there are quarters in your politics who don't know the sources of the conflict. They haven't seen a terrorist, unfortunately. And what happened recently, the tragedy that we've seen in Dublin with the attack of the young girl, is only a tiny little glimpse of what we are going through as a nation in building our nation in our ancient homeland.
Much of the last few days over that Leo Varadkar tweet was spent talking about words, and your ambassador in Dublin, Dana Ehrlich, said words matter. So in that context, I would ask you, what word would you use to describe the death of 6,000 children in Gaza since your offensive there begun?
It's extremely painful, and I cry about them as well. And it's extremely painful, and I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. And we care about the Palestinian people. We care. We went to peace with the Palestinian people. I think Irish people should learn history again. We went through horrific terror from the Palestinians, horrific terror, and yet we extended our hand and went to bold steps for peace. And I was a member of cabinets who did all steps possible for peace. And I was a leader of a movement and a party who advocated two-state solution. But one thing has to be clear, and that's my debate with many Irish people. There cannot be any understanding, directly or indirectly, to the notion of terror. We have been bombarded by terror for decades.
And now you are
and
bombarding
as if somebody
in
agrees,
reverse.
no, we are not bombarding.
You have
we
leveled
are
half of
using our
Gaza.
right for self-defense. We are not taking suicide bombers. You know how many terror attacks we went through in the last year? And the world stood idly by.
You're killing innocent children
We are
and women.
not doing that intentionally, with all due respect.
What result do you expect if you drop bombs on
And we are not necessarily
their
the
homes?
ones who are killing. We are defending ourselves. And in your question, you're kind of equalizing again between the fact that we were going through terror endlessly, people going to synagogue, butchered, people in their schools on their way to school, butchered, people in restaurants, butchered, and now people in their holiday, the most peace-loving communities in Israel who supported Gaza, who worked with Gaza, who used to go and help the Gazan people, who believed in peace with Gaza and the Palestinians. They were the ones butchered, murdered, abducted, and raped. And one has to say the truth. In order to deal with a change in course of history, one has simply to say the truth.
I want to ask you about, because we're out of time, that Friday, that October 7th, that horrific day when that massacre occurred. Many people have said, how did this happen? You know, Israel is well respected and known for its intelligence capabilities, its defence capabilities. Do you think that in the fullness of time, that will need to be inquired into to see exactly what happened?
Of course, it's been because we are an open and transparent democracy. If you read Israeli papers on a daily basis, it's all coming out big time in all the press releases. It was a major, major failure. And it will be investigated thoroughly, undoubtedly, with no mercy, People took responsibilities, and clearly there will be many more who will take responsibility once the war is over. And what we need to do, apart from that, is, of course, build a horizon of peace in the region, and we'll have to work with it on it together.
Just in conclusion, some might say the campaign you're on won't do that. In fact, the former President of Ireland, Mary Robinson, has said there will be no military solution here that will give peace. I met with Mary Robinson this year for a long conversation. I had many phone calls and discussions with President Higgins before the war. I discussed with them what are the options and how one gets to peace here. We can only envy the people of Ireland who've gone through a terrible conflict for decades and move towards a horizon of peace. I guess it takes time, because the question will be, how does one secure the safety and well-being of Israelis and Palestinians? That is something that is not only technical. You can't just draw a map and say, all okay. It's something really emotional. Israelis are shocked. They're really traumatized. They're shocked from two things. One, from the acts themselves, which are surpassing any thing that you'd seen in recent generations. And secondly, from kind of a lack of understanding of what we've gone through as a nation. We're not begging for compassion, not true, but we are looking for an understanding of our phobias. We're a nation that has gone through the worst atrocity in humankind, the Holocaust. And we ask ourselves, how come, when we are on a trajectory of peace in the region, inclusion in the region, moving forward to peace with our Arab neighbors and hopefully with the Palestinians, all of this, the empire of evil from Tehran and its proxy derailed it. And now we have to get it back on track and work hard to find ways and means of a dialogue and horizon of peace based on security. President Isaac Herzog, thank you very much for speaking to us this evening.